All right, strap in, everybody. We're going deep today
Deep.
into early Christianity.
That's right.
And let me tell you, things are going to get a little wild.
You could say that.
We've got Alvin Boyd Kuhn, who is this king of glory.
That's right.
And this book, oh boy, are you ready to have some assumptions challenged? Because this book really digs into some fascinating ideas about early Christianity and its connections with, with ancient myths and symbolism.
Yeah. Kuhn, he really kind of throws a wrench in the works of that traditional historical narrative of Christianity.
Yeah.
He suggests we look beyond just like the typical historical lens and turn our attention to ancient Egypt for a deeper, more symbolic understanding of Christian beliefs.
So instead of getting all caught up in the who, what, when, and where of it all,
Right.
Kuhn's digging into, I guess he's digging into the why, right? And the how we interpret these stories.
Yeah.
He's after those deeper truths, those nuggets of wisdom that are kind of hidden within the narrative.
You got it. He believed that ancient sages, they intentionally wove these profound truths, about human existence, spiritual evolution, all of that into myths and symbolism.
Right.
These stories weren't meant to be taken as literal historical accounts, but rather as something Kuhn actually calls soul selfies.
Soul selfies.
Yeah.
Okay. Like snapshots capturing a deeper, more essential reality than just factual events.
That's a great analogy, actually. Like, it makes me think of like those ancient Greek dramas, right?
Yeah.
Where, they would move audiences to such powerful emotional and moral catharsis.
That's right.
And it's like these myths, these soul selfies, as Kuhn calls them.
Right.
They were designed to leave that kind of lasting imprint on the soul, far more profound than any historical record could.
Exactly. And that actually brings us to one of Kuhn's central claims.
The Christ figure.
Oh.
He says it wasn't unique to Jesus.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we see this archetype pops up again and again in ancient religions.
Boy.
Horus, Mithra, Krishna, to name a few.
So the concept of a divine savior, this wasn't exactly a new concept.
Not at all. According to Kuhn, Christ, it represents that divine spark that, that we all carry within us, right?
Yeah.
It's that potential for Christhood, which he defines as a state of perfection. And here's where it gets really interesting, I think.
All right, lay it on me.
Kuhn actually suggests that this mythical model, it might be a more powerful engine for spiritual growth than a purely historical one.
Powerful, huh? Okay, so how so? Explain that.
Well, think about it. A mythical model, it pushes us towards self-reliance and inner transformation, right?
Okay.
It's about recognizing and nurturing that divine spark within ourselves.
Right.
Rather than passively relying on an external savior figure.
So it's less about, Jesus saves and more about recognizing that potential for divinity within each of us.
Right on, yeah. But to really unlock these deeper meanings, we need to understand the language that's being used.
Okay.
And Kuhn introduces this concept of esotericism, which basically means there's a whole system of hidden meanings and symbolic language woven into these stories.
Oh, I love a good hidden meaning. Like a secret code.
Yeah. It's kind of like a spiritual secret code, right? Reserved for those in the know.
Ooh, I want to be in the know. Okay, give me an example.
Okay, sure. Take the Red Sea.
Okay, the Red Sea.
In the Exodus story, Kuhn argues it's not meant to be understood as a literal body of water.
Right.
But rather a metaphor for the human body.
The human body, wow, okay.
And the entire Exodus itself, it represents the soul's journey to spiritual liberation.
So it's not about, like, Moses parting the waters. It's about,
an inner journey.
It's about, whoa, okay, so it's like we need to decode the symbolism to get to the heart of the message.
Precisely. And Kuhn argues that rediscovering Egyptian mythology, it's like finding the Rosetta Stone for cracking the code of ancient scriptures.
That's amazing, the Rosetta Stone. All right. So it opens up this whole new level of meaning.
A whole new level. Yeah.
Okay, my mind is officially blown. This is fascinating stuff.
It is.
But what about Jesus himself? Does Kuhn completely write him off as a historical figure?
Well, that's where things get a little more controversial.
Okay.
He doesn't outright deny the possibility of a historical Jesus.
Okay.
But he does raise some serious questions about those gospel accounts.
All right, let's unpack this. What kind of questions are we talking about here?
Well, he points to a few things. First, there's a a curious lack of contemporary non-Christian accounts of Jesus.
Interesting.
Second, there are, some inconsistencies and contradictions within the Gospels themselves.
Oh, okay.
And finally, there's evidence of textual alterations and even potential forgeries in some early Christian writings.
So he's suggesting that the Gospels might not be entirely accurate historical biographies.
Right.
That maybe they're more like allegorical narratives, maybe pulling from pre-existing mystery cults,
Yes.
like those secret societies with their own rituals and beliefs.
That's precisely his argument. And he's got some intriguing details to back it up.
Oh, really? Like what?
For instance, he suggests that the name Christos, meaning good man, was often used interchangeably with Christos, meaning anointed one, in those early writings.
So the emphasis on Jesus' divinity, that might have been a later development.
Exactly. And to further his point, Kuhn draws some striking parallels between the stories of Jesus and the Egyptian god Horus. We see, narratives of a virgin birth,
Right.
miracles, death, and resurrection in both.
Wow. Those are some pretty big similarities.
They are?
Are you saying these stories were borrowed?
Well, Kuhn suggests there's a deeper connection here. He even points to the Star of Bethlehem, arguing it could be a symbolic representation of Sirius, the dog star, which was associated with Horus in Egyptian mythology.
Hold on. Are you telling me that the Star of Bethlehem might actually represent a star linked to Horus?
It's a fascinating possibility, isn't it?
That changes everything. It's like these ancient myths. They were encoding astronomical observations right into their narratives.
It's certainly a new way of looking at these stories.
This is blowing my mind. Okay.
Yeah.
But if the story of Jesus is largely allegorical, where does Paul fit into all of this?
Yeah.
Because, he's always been seen as kind of a key figure in the spread of Christianity. What's Kuhn's take on Paul?
Well, Kuhn views Paul as more of a Gnostic teacher, someone who emphasized the inner Christ spirit, rather than the historical figure of Jesus.
So Paul was more focused on that internal transformation, the development of that divine spark within each individual.
That's right. And Kuhn points to the fact that Paul, in all of his letters, he's strangely silent about the life and teachings of Jesus.
Huh. Now that you mention it, that is a bit odd.
It is, isn't it?
I think if he was so devoted to Jesus, he would talk about him more.
It certainly raises some questions, doesn't it? Kuhn even goes so far as to suggest that Paul's conversion experience, with its, dramatic fall and name change,
Right.
that it might mirror the initiation rituals found in those mystery cults we talked about earlier.
Oh, wow. That's a really thought-provoking connection. It makes you wonder about the real story behind Paul's transformation.
It certainly does. And this leads us to what Kuhn sees as a pivotal turning point in the history of Christianity.
Okay.
He argues that the deeper symbolic meaning of those Christian scriptures, it got lost over time.
Okay.
As esoteric knowledge was suppressed.
Right, that spiritual secret code.
That's it. And literal interpretations, they took over.
So instead of understanding these stories as metaphors and symbolic representations, we started taking them as historical fact.
Precisely. And Kuhn believes this shift had some major consequences. It obscured those original spiritual teachings, leading to the rise of dogma, intolerance, and a focus on historical events rather than inner transformation.
So it became less about cultivating that Christ within and more about clinging to the historical figure of Jesus.
Exactly. And in a way, Kuhn argues that it ties into our modern aversion to information overload. He suggests we've been overloaded with the wrong kind of information about Christianity,
Yeah, obscuring its true essence. He might be onto something there. Because, we are bombarded with information all the time.
We are.
But how much of it actually nourishes our souls?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And it's one that Kuhn's work really forces us to confront.
Yeah, this deep dive has been a real eye-opener. I feel like I need some time to digest all of this. Let these ideas sink in a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you think?
Yeah,
Well.
it does, doesn't it? It really feels like, it feels like we've stumbled into a whole new dimension of understanding here. Like he's really challenging us to reconsider what we think we know about the origins and meanings of Christianity.
For sure. It really makes you wonder, like, if we strip away all those historical layers, all that stuff we think we know, what are we really left with? What's, like, the core essence of these stories?
And that's the heart of Kuhn's argument, right? He believes that the true power of these stories, it isn't tied to historical accuracy. It's about their enduring symbolic resonance with, well, with the human journey towards spiritual awakening.
So even if we question whether these events actually happened, like as they're described,
Right.
the myths themselves, they still hold this profound meaning and wisdom.
Absolutely, absolutely. The stories of the Christ figure, the virgin birth, the miracles, the death and resurrection,
Right.
they all become metaphors for the process of spiritual transformation, a process that Kuhn believes that every human being, has the potential to undergo.
Oh wow. So it's like these myths, they're like a roadmap
Yeah,
for our own spiritual journeys,
that's it.
guiding us towards that inner transformation.
Like precisely, and understanding them in this way, it can be incredibly empowering. It encourages us to take control of our own spiritual development
Oh, for sure.
rather than passively waiting for some external savior.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see how that would be empowering. But let's be honest, Kuhn's theories, I mean, they're a pretty radical departure from traditional Christian teachings. Did he anticipate that?
Oh, absolutely. Kuhn, he knew that his ideas would, well, he knew they'd ruffle some feathers.
Right.
He saw it as a necessary reinterpretation, a way to return to what he believed was the original essence of Christianity.
It's interesting that he frames it as a return rather than a complete like rejection of traditional Christianity.
Yeah. He's not trying to dismantle the whole system, right? He's just encouraging us to take a closer look at the foundation.
The underlying principles.
That's it.
I like that analogy. But some of Kuhn's claims, I mean, they're pretty bold, right?
Yeah.
Are there any weaknesses in his argument? I mean, could he be reaching a bit?
Of course. I mean, no theory is perfect, right? One could argue that in his passion for ancient Egypt, Kuhn might have overemphasized the connections between Egyptian mythology and Christianity. I mean, sometimes we see patterns where none exist.
Right, right. So it's important to approach these ideas with a healthy dose of skepticism. We need to be, discerning.
Yeah.
Not just accepting everything at face value.
Exactly. We need to bring our critical thinking skills to the table. But even if we don't, buy into all of Kuhn's conclusions, his work, it still has immense value, right? It forces us to ask important questions about the origins of Christianity and the ways we interpret religious texts.
It's like he's handed us a new lens through which to view these familiar stories.
Precisely, and that shift in perspective, it can be incredibly valuable, even if it challenges our preconceived notions.
Yeah, for sure. This whole deep dive has been a wild ride.
It has.
I feel like I need some time to really like digest all of this.
Yeah.
To really let these ideas sink in. What about you?
I think that's the best way to approach Kuhn's work, to be honest. It's meant to be pondered and explored, not just accepted or rejected outright.
So where do we go from here? Like if this deep dive has piqued our curiosity, what are some good next steps for exploring these ideas further?
Well, reading Kuhn's Who is This King of Glory is, of course, a great starting point.
Yeah.
But I'd also suggest, checking out other scholars who've explored the connections between ancient mythology and Christianity. People like Gerald Massey and Godfrey Higgins. They have some fascinating insights.
So it's about broadening our perspectives, looking at these ideas from multiple angles.
Exactly. And don't limit yourself to just academic texts, right?
Oh, okay.
Dive into those ancient myths themselves.
Okay.
Read the stories of Horus, Mithra, Krishna, experience them firsthand.
Right.
And see what resonates with you.
That's a great suggestion, actually, because it's one thing to read about these myths,
Right.
but it's a whole other experience to immerse yourself in the stories themselves.
Right. Let those stories speak to you directly.
Right.
And see what insights emerge.
This deep dive has definitely given us a lot to chew on. But before we wrap up, I'm curious, what do you find most compelling about Kuhn's theories? What really resonates with you?
For me, it's Kuhn's emphasis on on the enduring power of myth and symbolism. He reminds us that these stories, even if we question their their historical validity, they can still speak to us on a very deep level.
Yeah.
They tap into our deepest desires, our fears, our aspirations.
Yeah.
They offer guidance on our spiritual journeys and help us, make sense of the world around us.
That's a beautiful way to put it, actually. It's like these myths, they're tapping into a universal human experience.
Yeah.
Something that transcends time and culture. They're speaking to something deep within us, something we all share.
Exactly. And in a world that often seems, obsessed with facts and figures,
Yeah.
Kuhn's work is a powerful reminder of the importance of imagination, intuition, and the search for deeper meaning. It's a call to reconnect with the sacred,
Yeah.
within ourselves,
Right.
and in the world around us.
I love that. It's a reminder that there's always more to discover, more layers to peel back, both within ourselves and the world around us.
Absolutely. Sometimes those deeper layers, they're found not in external facts, but in the in the internal landscape of our own consciousness.
Right.
It's about exploring that inner world, that connection to something larger than ourselves.
That's a beautiful thought to leave our listeners with. So if this deep dive has sparked your curiosity, we highly recommend checking out Alvin Boyd Kuhn's work for yourself.
Yeah.
You might be surprised by what you discover.
And, even if you don't agree with everything Kuhn says, his work, it really encourages us to think critically, to question our assumptions about the origins and the meanings of, our beliefs. That's a valuable lesson in itself, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. It's about engaging with these ideas, wrestling with them, seeing what new understandings come out of that process. After all, isn't that what the deep dive is all about?
Exactly, yeah. It's about diving deep, exploring new perspectives, coming up with our own insights.
And who knows, maybe in the process, maybe we'll uncover a few hidden truths about ourselves along the way.
Yeah. The journey of discovery, it's never ending.
Well said.
Yeah.
So much for just skimming the surface, right? If this deep dive into Kuhn's ideas has left you wanting more, we urge you to explore his work for yourself. Who knows? You might just find yourself questioning everything you thought you knew about the history of Christianity.
And maybe even discovering something new about your own spiritual journey in the process.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the secret history of Christianity. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.